The crash echoed through the house like a thunderclap, pulling me out of my exhausted haze. I just dragged myself through the front door after a grueling 14-hour shift at the ER, my scrub still smelling of antiseptic and regret. All I craved was a hot shower and the oblivion of sleep. But Whiskers, our mischievous tabby cat, had other plans. He discovered his favorite feather toy wedged behind the dresser in our bedroom. And in his frantic pursuit, he launched himself like a furry missile. The impact shook the entire piece of furniture, and I heard the splintering wood before I even reached the door. "Whiskers, you little menace," I muttered, rushing in to assess the damage. What I found stopped my heart. The bottom drawer had burst open, its cheap lock twisted and useless, contents spilling across the beige carpet like confetti from a nightmare. At first, I thought it was just Mark's work stuff. He was always so protective of that drawer, claiming it held sensitive client files from his financial planning job. "Confidentiality is everything in my line of work," he'd say with that reassuring smile of his. But as I knelt down to gather the papers, my blood ran cold. Passports. Not one, but several, all bearing Mark's face, but with names I'd never heard. Jonathan Lee, Carlos Rivera, Ethan Park. Each one listed different addresses, different birth dates, all slightly off from the man I married 5 years ago. My hands trembled as I picked up a stack of credit cards, fanned out like a bad poker hand. They matched the names on the passports, each signed in Mark's familiar looping script. Bank statements fluttered to my feet, showing balances that made my head spin, tens of thousands in accounts I didn't know existed. We'd been scraping by for years.
Or so he told me.
I worked overtime at the hospital, skipped vacations, bought off-brand everything, because Mark said the market was tough and his commissions were down. Yet here were deposits pouring in, timed suspiciously with dates on another set of documents that made my stomach lurch. Death certificates. Eleanor Kim, 81. Miguel Santos, 79. Patricia Chern, 84. All deceased within the last 18 months. All listing Mark, or rather, one of his aliases, as their primary beneficiary or executor. I sank back against the bed, the room spinning. Whiskers rubbed against my leg, purring innocently, oblivious to the bomb he'd just detonated in my life. Mark, my steady, kind-hearted husband who volunteered at senior centers and specialized in retirement planning for the elderly. The man who'd swept me off my feet during my darkest days. How could this be him? I met Mark on a rainy afternoon in a dingy Seattle cafe, buried under a pile of medical bills that threatened to bury me alive. Fresh out of nursing school at 25, I was drowning in student loans, rent arrears, and credit card debt from years of scraping by. My parents had passed young, car accident, and I had no safety net. That day, I was fighting back tears over a lukewarm latte, spreadsheets mocking me from my laptop screen. Then he appeared, tall and unassuming in a tailored suit, with eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. "Mind if I join you? You look like you could use a fresh coffee and maybe a listening ear." His name was Mark Thompson, a financial advisor at a mid-sized firm downtown. He didn't pry at first. He just talked about the weather, the city's endless drizzle, how it made everyone crave sunshine. But when he noticed my spreadsheets, his expression softened. "I'm in the numbers game myself. If you want, I could take a quick look, no charge. Just neighborly advice." I hesitated, but there was something trustworthy about him, a quiet confidence that made me spill my guts. Over the next 2 hours, he sketched out a plan: consolidate loans, negotiate rates, build a budget. "You're not hopeless, Sarah," he said, using my name like he'd known me forever. "You've got a bright future as a nurse. Let's get the money stuff out of the way so you can focus on saving lives." We started meeting weekly. Mark never billed me, said it was pro bono. Good karma. He was patient, explaining compound interest like it was a bedtime story. Gradually, those meetings turned personal. He shared about his own rough start, orphan at 18, worked his way through community college. Money's just a tool, he'd say. But it can trap you if you're not careful. I fell for him hard. His stability, his empathy, the way he made me feel seen. When he proposed 2 years later on a foggy beach walk, it felt like destiny. Marriage meant security. Mark took over our finances completely. You heal people all day, let me handle the bills. It was a relief. Our joint account was modest. Bills paid on time, but always tight. Client base is shrinking with the economy, he'd explain. But we're building equity. I believed every word. Mark's office was a cozy space in a strip mall, walls lined with plaques for outstanding service in elder care finance. He specialized in seniors, those forgotten by busy families. I'd drop by sometimes with sandwiches. Watch him with clients like Mrs. Harlow, who'd beam at him like a son. Mark's a godsend, she'd say, clutching his arm. He visited them at home, helped with groceries, even set up video calls to distant grandkids. These folks have no one else, he'd tell me at night, snuggling close. I make sure their golden years aren't tarnished by scams or bad investments. I was proud. In a world that discarded the old, Mark was their guardian.
But now,
staring at those death certificates, pride turned to poison in my veins. Whiskers had uncovered a monster. I shoved everything back into the drawer as best I could, heart racing. Mark would be home soon. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe there was an explanation. But deep down, a whisper grew. Who is the man I married? As the garage door hummed open, I forced a smile, burying the dread. Hey,
babe.
Rough day. Mark kissed my cheek, smelling of aftershave and secrets. Dinner was normal, pasta. Small talk about my patients, his meetings. But I watched him closer, noting how his eyes darted when I mentioned Whisker's antics. That night, in bed, his arm around me felt like a cage. Sleep evaded me, questions swirling. Tomorrow, I'd dig deeper. Alone. Morning light filtered through the blinds. But it did nothing to chase away the shadows in my mind. Mark left for work with his usual peck on the cheek and a love you. See you tonight. The door clicked shut, and I bolted to the bedroom, yanking open that cursed drawer again. The papers mocked me. Pristine evidence of a life I never knew. I spread them on the kitchen table, sipping coffee that tasted like ash. Jonathan Lee had a LinkedIn profile, financial consultant for Asian American retirees. Fluent in Mandarin. Client testimonials glowed. Jonathan saved my nest egg. But the photo was Mark. Sans glasses. Hair styled differently. Carlos Rivera, Spanish-speaking advisor for Latino seniors, with a website in bilingual text. Ethan Park, Korean specialist. Community awards listed. Mark had crafted personas tailored to ethnic communities, preying on trust built through cultural connection. Bank apps on my phone, I had access to our joint one, but these were separate, showed transfers, funds from deceased clients funneled into these alias accounts. Over $500,000 hidden while we struggled. Rage bubbled. Slow at first, then simmering. I'd pulled double shifts, come home bone-tired, all while he hoarded fortunes. The client files were the worst. Detailed dossiers, Mrs. Eleanor Kim, 81, isolated widow. Assets, $420,000. Early dementia noted. Power of attorney, Jonathan Lee. Mr. Miguel Santos, 79. No local family. Heart issues. Beneficiary, Carlos Rivera. Each profile listed vulnerabilities, loneliness, health frailties, like a hunter's notes on prey. Obituaries online confirmed, all died peacefully at home, wills altered weeks prior. No autopsies, families distant, accepting natural causes. My sister, Lisa, called mid-morning. She was a fraud investigator at a major bank.
Sharp as a tack.
You sound off.
Sarah. Spill.
I couldn't hold it in. Words tumbled. The cat. The IDs.
The deaths.
Get over here, she said. Voice steel. 30 minutes later, she burst in, hugging me fierce. Show me. We pored over the papers. Her expert eyes spotting patterns I'd missed. This is classic elder exploitation, she whispered. Systematic. Look, deposits spike post-death. And these wills? Changed under duress. I'd bet. Lisa fired up her laptop. Accessing databases. Mark's aliases trace back 6 years. Small thefts at first, then escalations. Inheritances from natural deaths. She tallied. Over $1.8 million siphoned. While you slaved away thinking you were broke. But then her face paled. Sarah. These deaths. Clustered. Not random. Symptoms in medical notes. Confusion. Weakness. Mirroring chronic poisoning. My world tilted. Poisoning. Lisa nodded. Arsenic or thallium's low. Mimics age-related decline. Makes them reliant. Easy to manipulate. We cross-referenced. Clients alive showed recent health dips. Mark's help. Vitamins. Meals.
Meds.
He's not waiting for death, Lisa said. He's engineering it. Nausea hit. The man who rubbed my feet after shifts, who planned our dream home someday, was a killer. We need proof, I choked. Police? Lisa shook her head. Not yet. Too circumstantial. Let's visit clients. Pose as community health workers. That afternoon, we drove to Mrs. Harlow's bungalow. She answered slowly, walker in hand, eyes foggy. Oh, hello, dears. We explained our wellness check.
Inside.
The air smelled medicinal.
Off.
How's your health?
I asked.
Not great. Dizzy. Forgetful. But Jonathan brings vitamins, special formula. She pointed to pills on the counter. Lisa pocketed a sample discreetly. And your finances? Mrs. Harlow smiled weakly. Jonathan handles everything. Updated my will last month. No kids, he's like family. Left it all to him. Next. Mr. Vargas. Under Carlos. Frail. Confused. Carlos makes soup nourishing. Fridge held a container. Lisa sniffed. Face grim. Bitter almond scent. Cyanide trace. Mr. Vargas had signed over assets recently. Pattern repeated at Mrs. Lee's. Ethan Park's care coinciding with decline. Well, changes. By dusk. We had 5 stories. Poisoning via gifts, dependency, inheritance. He's a predator, Lisa seethed. Using kindness as camouflage. Back home. I stared at our wedding photo. Mark's arm around me. Eyes warm. All fake? Lisa planned. Tomorrow, more clients. Then cops. But dread built. What if he suspected? That night, Mark came home humming. Cooked stir-fry. You okay, babe? Seemed distant. I forced normalcy, but his touch chilled me. Sleep came in fits. Dreams of shadowed figures feeding poison to the helpless. The slow burn of betrayal ignited into fury. Tomorrow, we'd expose him. But how many had already paid the price? The next day dawned gray, matching my mood. Lisa arrived early, armed with coffee and determination. We hit 3 more clients today. Gather samples. Statements. Then we go to the authorities. I nodded, steeling myself. Mark had texted. Busy day with seniors. Home late. Love you. Bile rose. Seniors he was likely dooming. First stop, Mr. Chen's apartment. Frail. Oxygen tank nearby. Ethan's a blessing, he wheezed. Brings tea that helps my cough. The tea leaves smelled suspicious. Lisa bagged some. Well, updated. Everything to Ethan Park. Mrs. Gomez next. Carlos's charge. Bedridden. Voice faint. Carlos helps with pills. So kind. Pills mismatch labels, Lisa noted. Left my savings to him. Family's far. Last. Mr. Tanaka. Jonathan's client. Confused. Rambling. Jonathan's meals keep me strong. Fridge soup. Same odd odor. All had signed powers of attorney. All declining rapidly. It's textbook, Lisa said in the car. Slow poison builds tolerance. Symptoms blamed on age. He waits till they're gone. Claims inheritance. Back home. Lisa compiled. Photos. Samples. Timelines. This is enough for warrants. My phone buzzed, Mark. Picking up groceries for Mrs. Harlow. Be home by 8. Panic surged. He's with her now. What if? Lisa called her contact at the DA's office.
Urgent.
Elder abuse. Possible homicide. Detective Ramirez arrived swiftly. A no-nonsense vet with a notebook scarred from use. We laid it out. IDs. Banks. Deaths. Samples. He whistled low. This is big. Serial exploitation with murder elements. We'll test samples. Pull records. Plan formed. I'd play normal. Police would stake out. Arrest at home. Dangerous if cornered, Ramirez warned. Act oblivious. Hours crawled. I tidied the house. Heart hammering. At 7:45, Mark's car pulled in. Honey, I'm home. He entered. Bags in hand. Bought your favorite wine. Then he saw Lisa and Ramirez on the couch. Smile faltered. What's going on? Mark Thompson. Ramirez stood. Badge flashing. We need to talk. Mark set bags down slowly.
About.
Ramirez spread fakes on the table. These identities. Bank fraud. Suspicious deaths. Mark's eyes widened. Feigned shock.
What?
Those aren't mine. Identity theft. Smooth. Convincing. But Ramirez pressed. Soup for Mr. Vargas tested positive for arsenic. Vitamins from Mrs. Harlow. Thallium traces. Mark blanched. I don't know Vargas or Harlow under those names. Recordings played, clients praising Jonathan, Carlos, Ethan. Mark's composure cracked. They were burdens, he muttered. Draining society. I gave purpose to their end. Horror washed over me. You killed them? Mark turned, eyes void of warmth. Accelerated the inevitable. Poison in doses mimics decline. They trusted me. Changed wills. Easy. Why me? I whispered. He shrugged. You were cover. Nurse wife adds legitimacy. Your schedules kept you blind. Love was convenient. Backup arrived. Cuffs snapped. As they led him away, he glanced back. You were useful.
Sarah.
That's all. The door shut, leaving silence. Lisa hugged me. It's over.
But was it?
The man I loved was illusion. How many illusions do we cling to? The aftermath hit like a tidal wave, slow-building grief crashing into rage. Police raids uncovered more, hidden safes with cash. More aliases. Victim files spanning a decade. Autopsies exhumed, Poison confirmed in 7 bodies. Mark's firm was shocked. He'd compartmentalized perfectly. Clients alive were tested, treated, some recovered. Others too far gone. Mrs. Harlow passed weeks later. But not from poison, from heartbreak. Learning her son betrayed her. I testified. Voice steady despite tremors. Mark's trial was a media circus. The senior slayer, headlines screamed. He pleaded not guilty, claiming frame-up. But evidence mounted. Purchase records for toxins, disguised as supplements. Witnesses, distant families noting odd changes pre-death. My story sealed it, the devoted wife uncovering horror. Jury deliberated hours, guilty on 12 counts murder.
Fraud.
Life without parole. Divorce was swift. Assets seized for restitution. I moved to a small apartment. Whiskers, my only companion. Therapy helped unpack the manipulation, love bombing, gaslighting, isolation. Narcissistic sociopath, the shrink said. Praise on empathy. Friends rallied, but trust shattered. Dating? Laughable. Work became sanctuary, saving lives. Antithesis to Mark's destruction. Lisa and I grew closer. She quit banking for victim advocacy. We visited survivors. Heard stories of Mark's kindness, turning sinister. One, Mr. Vargas, recovered enough to thank us. He seemed so genuine. The question lingered, how do we spot monsters in sheep's clothing? Mark's letters from prison arrived, apologies, claims of reform. I burn them unread. The slow poison of betrayal lingers. But I rebuild, one shift at a time. Years on, I volunteer at senior centers, teaching fraud awareness. Whiskers, now old, curls in my lap as I reflect. That crash wasn't destruction, it was salvation. For me, for others. But the whisper remains. Who else hides in plain sight? Healing came in fragments, pieced together over months that blurred into years. The house sold quickly, too many ghosts. Proceeds went to a fund for elder abuse victims. A small atonement for my unwitting role. At night, I'd wake from dreams where Mark's smile morphed into something feral, his hands offering poison tea. Therapy sessions peeled layers, how he'd targeted my vulnerability, mirrored my values to ensnare. Classic predator tactic, the counselor said. But you survived. That's power. Work at the hospital grounded me. A patient's grateful squeeze after a tough night shift reminded me of purpose. Lisa and I started a podcast anonymized. Of course, sharing warning signs of financial abuse. Listeners flooded in, stories of similar betrayals. Not always deadly, but devastating. Your voice saved my mom, one email read. Impact rippled. Slow but sure. Dating crept back cautiously. A colleague.
Tom.
Kind without agenda. No rush. Trust rebuilt brick by brick. Whiskers passed peacefully at 15. Buried under our old oak, the cat who upended everything. I adopted a kitten, naming her Hope. Life's irony. Mark's appeals failed. He rots in maximum security. Rumors of prison confessions, more victims, earlier schemes. Closure?
Partial.
The core question haunts. How well do we know those we love? In quiet moments, I ponder the elderly he targeted, lonely souls seeking connection. Society's failure amplified his crimes. We must do better. Check on neighbors. Question too good to be true. Today, I stand stronger. Scars badges of survival. The explosion of truth freed me from illusion. But the dregs remain. What if Whiskers hadn't played that day? A chilling thought. Vigilance, now my mantra.
Love.
But verify. The end isn't tidy. Life's messes linger. Yet in the telling, perhaps prevention. Listen close. Monsters whisper sweetly. Heed the crash when it comes.